Who is Mabil Mawut?
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. And Kevin, we love Circle K. Of course, we are in Studio K. As I said, I am Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas. This is the AZ Wildcats podcast, and we got a new commitment to talk about, Kevin.
We sure do, Damon. Mabil Mawut is an Arizona Wildcat, and it's pretty exciting. I'm not going to lie. I know Damon is over here. He is absolutely Mabil Mawut Wildcat fan number one. And I feel like Damon is more pumped than maybe even Mabil's family for this signing. TGIF, happy Friday to everybody in the chat. Excited to be here with you all today talking Arizona athletics once again before we embark on all of our weekends. Damon, do you have any fun weekend plans?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of going to hang out. Maybe I know this is maybe a little bit of people are not going to be happy with me. Might hit a pool party with my guy Anthony Totri tomorrow. Who knows? PHNX Sun Devils host, noted scumbag within this fan base. Might be. Where do you think Anthony Totri ranks in terms of most hated media members by U of A fans?
I don't know.
He's top 5.
He is?
He's on the Mount Rushmore. I think he's got to be.
That's not my neck of the woods. You know, I don't venture into the hateful woods too often. I don't know. It was fun. It was fun, Michael. Girlfriend's birthday was fun. A bunch of her friends came over. We pretty much did like a catering situation because we were supposed to do like a big Korean barbecue at home, like in her backyard, a long
those
table.
Are electric. Yeah.
But they're doing like construction on. Long story short, they're doing construction in the backyard. Couldn't go. Went to it. Took everything. Went to one of her friends' houses. It worked out beautifully. There were drinks, Korean barbecue. Everything was very delicious and very good. And yeah, here we are on a Friday, and I think the birthday weekend continues, but we'll see if I am back on Monday.
Well, we will certainly see, Kevin. I mean, who knows what the weekend holds, but also excited to, dig in on some Arizona baseball this weekend as well, playing TCU. Going to be a fun outing. I believe Michael, right, was the one that is going to be coming into town for that one. Big series against TCU. 2 teams near the top of the Big 12 standings, and just a real momentum changer going into this latter part of the season here, Kevin. But as far as general weekend plans, I think I'm just going to keep it chill for a bit because, your boy was in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Your boy spent a lot of money, way too much money. And, just got to take it easy, I think, as time goes in the upcoming month here. But we all know that that's not going to last. That will change very, very quickly.
You're going to a pool party tomorrow.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, I look at my bank account and I'm like, I spent $300 yesterday doing nothing. But Kevin, Arizona spent some money presumably on Mabil Mawut, and he's the newest member of this Arizona basketball program. I guess just kind of initial take on adding the NBA Academy and South Sudanese product.
This is no disrespect to Mabil Mawut. I think it is actually illustrative of the health of the program right now. My first reaction to his signing was, wow, Tommy Lloyd continues to dig into the international well and go out and get guys that have a super high ceiling and maybe a little bit of a lower floor. But yeah, it was an exciting moment for me. I think that everyone involved, fans, pundits alike, were excited by this, but I wasn't necessarily like blown away by it. In fact, I was kind of concerned about what it means for Carter Bryant, and we will get into that later on this here podcast. But overall positive feelings toward the signing. I just didn't think it was necessarily like great. It didn't like shake my world or anything like that, like a Koa Peter or Braden Burry's commitment did. But this is certainly, I think, a player that we could be talking a lot about in the years to come at Arizona.
Yeah, certainly. Gerald puts here in the chat, Toad Trees is a jerk. I'm gonna have to use that one. I think I'm gonna have to put that one in the old holster, Kevin, and hold on to it for when I need it most. But yeah, crazy take. Eric, we were talking about that a little bit yesterday with the ASU guys. I forget. Sorry to go off topic on you here, Kevin, but it just came up. Somebody was, I think it was Eric, Ruby was telling me that, like, will you guys ever win a game as long as Kenny's coach here? And it's like, well, how long do you guys expect Kenny to be coach here? Because if it's the 20 years you think you're going to get out of him, 1,000% will win a football game. Like, when has that ever not happened in a rivalry? You're going to get one here and there. And then they changed it to like, will Arizona be favored over Kenny Dillingham in a game? That's a different conversation.
Also, who cares if you're ever favored against a team as long as you win? Also, while we're talking about the
and we have beat Kenny. Yeah, we beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
Could have put up 100.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of the chat, we continue to lead the league in Lukes. Luke Praise says
New
hello.
Luke. New
that
Luke
is a
alert.
third Luke in the chat. No air horn in this studio. We're going to have to fix that immediately. But yeah, we do continue to lead the league in Lukes.
Run it up, man. Give me all the Lukes. This is a Luke show. This is your number one Luke podcast in America. And we're going to continue to add to our Rolodex of Lukes.
If your first name is Luke, we need you in this chat.
I got the podcast for you.
Exactly.
But getting back to Mabil Mawut, I'm a little bit more hyped than you, Kevin, I think, because I watched this guy's tape and, I know it's highlight tapes and they're not going to show, his deficiencies. They're not going to show maybe missed defensive assignments and whatnot, but he seems like he has the athleticism. This is kind of where I was a little bit lower on Gueye, on Dissy Gueye, right?
Sidi
Gueye. Dyslexic.
Yeah, that was like a very,
Sidi Gueye.
All the right letters, all the wrong order.
Yes, correct. On Sidi Gueye is that I felt like he was moving a little slow when I was watching his tape. And that's not to say that he can't be a really good player for this program. It just felt like to me when I was watching his tape that maybe he didn't have the jump off the screen athleticism that I expected when we got a commitment from a foreign big man similar to what we saw in Henri Veesaar. Even, I know Oumar Ballo is not like conventionally athletic, but he's like, the dude's 350 pounds and he runs up and down the floor. Like that's pretty insane athleticism when you really put it in that context. When I watched Mabil Mawut, I felt like he was rising up at the rim. He's blocking poster dunk attempts, getting in their face afterwards. And on top of that, his offensive game seems predicated on his stroke and his shooting motion, which is pretty solid and I think has a very good base level going into, college basketball and playing in the United States a little bit more. I know he played high school ball here in his last couple seasons. But,
in the Bronx.
Yeah, but he's, and as you noted, against a bunch of, guys that look like me out there. But the highlights that I was really impressed by were the NBA Academy highlights where he's going up against a lot of really athletic foreign basketball players that have been hand-selected from across the world to compete at this level. And he looked like he was fitting in, and not only fitting in, but at times was, kind of dominant in some of those runs that I was watching. And it was based off of blocking shots and hitting threes. And I love that profile of a player. And I think it's like he's like the quintessential modern basketball player. And I love that Tommy Lloyd gets to mold this guy.
Chad, Damon was very excited watching all of the Mabil Mawut highlights because he was over there. He got into the office, had his coffee, became a human again, and started watching these highlights. And he was like foaming at the mouth watching this guy. It was crazy. He's over here telling me and Noah, like, is it over? Should we wrap the season up now?
Yeah.
Should Arizona just travel to wherever the national title is going to be played, whatever arena it's in, and just cut down the nets now?
I believe my exact wording was, why don't you just put the rafter, or put it up in the rafters right now?
Yeah, you said put the number where it belongs. Yeah,
because Mawut he's leading us to the promised land.
I mean, I'm with you, Damon. I love the signing. I really do. I think in terms of like players that can develop and have a very high ceiling, he is for sure one of those guys. How much he plays next year, I don't necessarily know. But in terms of a guy that like year 2 could be one of the better players on the team, I think he certainly has a conversation there. Like there certainly is a conversation to be had in terms of what he could look like, not next season, but the year after next season. Because obviously we don't think he's a one and done here at Arizona. So it feels like Mabil Mawut really has the chance to develop at Arizona. And we talked about, the other day with Sidi Gueye that like international players are taking notice of what Tommy Lloyd is doing at Arizona, and it's becoming a huge reason why Arizona continues to hit on these international guys. Yep. And I'm excited to see where the pipeline ultimately leads Arizona, what kind of elite international talent they can continue to bring in. Hopefully, Mabil is the latest in that list of NBA guys that have come out of Arizona from foreign country.
I love the way that Tommy approaches team building at Arizona in particular. I know Gonzaga is a lot different, and he was like one of the lead recruiters at Gonzaga, especially from a foreign player standpoint, right? But I love that since Tommy's gotten the reins of this program, one of the top programs in the country, top 10 program, like he's supplementing his high level recruiting in America with high potential guys from overseas. And I think that is the absolute perfect way to team build, is like, give me the high level upper echelon prospects that are going to raise the floor of this team super high, and then bring in guys like Mawut, who I think project as a pretty damn good college basketball player. He's going to come off the bench for us this season and be like, 8th, 9th, 10th man on the team, but provide something that in terms of a profile that Arizona does not currently have on the roster. So, that stretch big with a little bit of athleticism. Arizona needs 3-and-D players. Like, that's straight up. They need 3-and-D players. They still need a small forward. I know we're going to look at the roster a little bit later in this show, but I genuinely think that the way that Tommy team builds is, very conducive to success. And I have full trust in him. I know people get mad at Tommy all the time, but like getting the Braden Burries of the world and the Koa Pete's of the world opens you up for taking chances on guys like Gueye and guys like like Mawut. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. Gerald puts up here in the chat that it's Sidi Gueye. I will look into it a little bit more after the show. Pretty sure that's not the truth because it's the French pronunciation of Gueye, and there's soccer players that have had it in the past that or still have it. It's their last name.
They lost it. They lost it eventually.
Soccer players that have that last name, that's how they pronounce it. On the broadcasts and whatnot, and yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm rolling with here. But
I wanted to touch on Erica's comment here because I'm of two minds on it, because my gut agrees with Erica that like it's not my favorite to get super hyped about a guy that's not going to play a role year one and might play a role year two, but you don't actually know. Like, I kind of hate that. I kind of don't. Like, I feel like if you are in a situation where you're focusing on trying to win now, like you feel like your team is good enough now to contend, I feel like you should be trying to find players that can play with those guys now. Not a guy that can play with the guy after Braden Burries and Koa Pete, but the guy that can play with Koa Pete and Braden Burries today. But I also feel like in today's college landscape, as crazy as it is to say, you kind of do have to treat it like a pro style, and you kind of do have to have guys like the underlings that you can almost use as like a cushion if one of your guys were to go into the portal, or if Carter Bryant, like we're going to talk about it, were to go to the NBA draft. All the different ways your roster can be manipulated and changed outside of your own control. If you're Tommy Lloyd, I feel like is a reason you do want these guys like a Henri Veesaar, for example, on your roster last season, who could step up if something were to happen and be that guy that, oh, look at how he developed year over year at Arizona. Yeah. But like I said, I'm of two minds on it, because the win now part of me is like, Mawut is not really going to be he could, who knows? But he's 17 or whatever he is, and Gueye or Gueye, whatever you want to call him. He is 17 today. He won't be 18 till October. Okay. So how much can we really trust that these players are going to play meaningful minutes next season? And if they don't play meaningful minutes next season and Arizona doesn't win a national championship, how much is it really worth it to say, well, at least we developed them in the year where Braden Burries and Koa Pete were there, and then Braden Burries and Koa Pete move on to the NBA, theoretically, and then you are left with your developmental guys, but you haven't actually seen that work. So I'm of two minds on it. Like, I think it's overall a good thing that this is the way that Tommy Lloyd builds his roster. Like you said, I think you do have to kind of be working with two timelines in a way nowadays. But I don't know how I feel about so many guys that Tommy Lloyd brings in being year two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your point, yours and Erica's point here, but I would just say since they changed the walk-on rule, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show, but since they changed the walk-on rule in college basketball, like this is a situation where you have 15 scholarships you got to fill up. You have extra scholarships that you didn't have in the past. I think bringing on wild card, mystery, kind of, high potential foreign prospects that Tommy Lloyd, certainly knows how to vet, and Jack Murphy certainly knows how to vet and get good details on who they are as people, who they are as players. Like, I think that's the move personally, because and maybe a lot of those guys are going to leave after their first year. We saw it with Oumar Ballo, right? And he had a really successful, career after he moved on, or
Manuel Steffen,
Paulie M, Manuel Steffen, Philly B, like these guys are going to different places, not necessarily always contributing at Arizona and having solid careers, right? But I think that, then you always, you bank on, hopefully, it works out with a guy. Oumar Ballo sat out his first year at Arizona, became a 2-year starter and a really good basketball player for this program. Like, I think that, there are avenues where that works for this team and where it can be really, really helpful. And hopefully these are just people that are bought in on, we're 17. We're not going to expect to be huge time, have a huge time role, be big time contributors in year one. But hopefully they're bought into what Tommy Lloyd is selling them in terms of coming back for year two. And honestly, yeah, just with this new change in walk-on scholarships, like I feel that this is the ideal route, honestly.
I think it is the ideal route. I agree with you. I think if you're going to be Tommy Lloyd, a coach who prides yourself on showing your development over year, showing how you can elevate players' games, showing how you can get a player from where they are now to where they want to be as seamlessly as possible, I think this is another way to build up your portfolio, right? To continue to search the under-recruited international guys that you think you could get something out of, that you might see something of a past player in that player, kind of like you were alluding to, and we were talking about that with CD the other day, about how he kind of reminded me a little bit of Henri Veesaar in some ways. I think that this is the smart way to build the team. Erica, like she says here in the chat, you have to recruit this way for sure. She says, I just hate that there's such a huge worry that our 6'11 recruit eventually leaves to UNC or something. Too soon for the UNC poll. Kobe says he ain't playing this year. Red shirt candidate. And yeah, I mean, again, I like the more talent on the roster, the better, in my opinion, because that just gives Tommy Lloyd more tools to work with. But yeah, when you asked me, we started this conversation by you asking me what my initial reaction to this was. It was nice. Another international developmental player. I hope he is good.
Yeah.
Right. That was my genuine reaction. It wasn't me, really necessarily ready to hang any banners or anything like that.
What are you trying to say?
That you and I had opposite reactions to this. That was all. Not opposite, but I guess positive, but to way different degrees.
You don't think my take is reasonable that we're winning the national championship
Didn't say
because
that,
we got Mabil Mawut?
I just said that wasn't my reaction. I didn't say it wasn't reasonable. You and I, and this is kind of a good segue into our next conversation before we wrap up on Mabil Mawut. Mm-hmm. He, super high ceiling player, and when you watch his highlights, and maybe Kobe in the chat, because I think he was talking about some OTE highlights earlier, so I feel like he's done his homework as well. Maybe he can come in the chat and kind of second this if he agrees. But when you watch his highlights, it feels like depending upon which video you watch, you're going to have drastically different reactions to his ceiling and floor as a player. Like Damon, you watched the NBA Academy video first.
That was the first one I watched. Yeah.
I watched his Our Savior Lutheran highlights first, which is from when he played in New York in high school. And I was like, okay, he's a good basketball player. He's 6'11". He is taller than 85% of his opponents and more skilled than 85% of his opponents. He looks good. And then I started doing show prep. And I was like, okay, I'll watch the NBA Academy stuff before the show, right? That was my plan. Mm-hmm. And then Damon starts watching the NBA Academy stuff first. And what was your reaction based on the video you saw?
Just that he has the profile of a player that I think has an extremely high ceiling.
Yeah,
and that was mostly my reaction. I'm obviously being tongue in cheek with the cutting the banner stuff and whatever, but I mean, I know Kobe says he's not going to play year one. I could see it because he's 17, but I don't know, man. Something about like when I'm watching these highlights, he feels like a guy who could be the 9th, 10th man on this team, get some spot minutes here and there, play the role that Veesaar was playing before Krivas went down, where it's like, oh, we need a guy to toss in for a little bit, but maybe it's more of an Emmanuel Steven role where it's like, hey, we're really gonna put you on ice here going into next season. But I don't know. I like the way that this guy, like I feel like this 3-point shooting stroke is something that we could use tomorrow. Like I really do.
I agree.
They didn't have the 3-point shooting this year, and if he can actually bring this to the Big 12 level, like if he can shoot threes consistently throughout the season, then I think he has to play. That's my opinion on it. But I mean, I'm not saying he's like got to play like 15 minutes a game, but I'd like to see what he's got. A little bit more than, like I said, with Gueye, where it's like I felt like he needed a little bit more fine tuning to get ready for this jump up of level. He's also a little bit younger, I think, right? But yeah, it
feels like, and I'm not saying this because they're the two most recent recruits or because they're international players or whatever, and I want your opinion on this as well. If we're having the redshirt conversation, I haven't really thought about this too deeply yet because we're so early into the offseason, right, still. But it feels like one of the two possibly red shirts. Like it doesn't feel like there's enough room for 2 or 3 because you also, I know people don't feel too positively about the idea of this, but you also have Bryce James as a developmental player as well in all of this. And I'm sure that if the 2 kids from Africa are going to get minutes, I'm assuming someone's going to want Bryce James to at least get a couple minutes. And so I feel like one of the 2 new recruits will likely redshirt. What do you think about that idea? And maybe I'm wrong about the Bryce James thing. Hell, maybe he's the guy that redshirts, and he's just an Arizona Wildcat for life, and that would be awesome. But it does feel like there's a little too many cooks in the kitchen from a developmental like bench standpoint.
Yeah, I think certainly someone redshirts. I think you saw this staff is clearly happy to redshirt people if they feel that they're not ready. They wanted to with Emmanuel Steven last year. Like that was the goal, right? And he kind of put his foot down and said no, he wants to play after Krivas went down. And they adhered to what he said there. But it does feel like, that at least one of these guys is going to be an attempted red shirt. And Bryce James probably should be another guy who's a red shirt. But I agree with you in that I don't think that that's something that the James family is putting their stamp of approval.
They're not sending their kid to a school to just go get red shirted.
I mean, because I think LeBron wants to play with Bryce too, whether that's realistic or not. But that was reported, I forget by who, but somebody pretty reputable. Like there were some, there's been some rumors about LeBron, is he done after the Lakers lost? And it's like, dude,
he's not done.
You think LeBron isn't going to get himself the biggest retirement tour that basketball or sports has ever seen? You're losing your freaking mind. LeBron is going to make an entire NBA season about him, probably as he should because he's the GOAT. But, it's like, LeBron's an attention guy. He wants the attention of like, this is my final season. And I wouldn't be shocked if he wanted to do it with his other son in the building as well. But that being said, I don't think Bryce James I don't think he's a guy who's going to redshirt. I also don't think he's a guy who's going to be like a high level role player or contributor for this team. So kind of a weird spot there. But I feel that, I definitely think at least one of these guys red shirts. I think it'll be Gueye for sure, and then we'll see here on Mawut.
Erica says the new Lakers Big Four is going to be Luka, LeBron, Bryce, and Junior.
Hey yo, who's that?
Hey yo,
isn't that the famous tweet of where it's like Bryce James doesn't wear number 23 because he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be, like in his dad's shadow.
Who's that James kid?
Who's that? They're like, now coming to the floor, number 5, LeBron James Jr. And you're like, hey yo, bro, who that? I think that's the tweet. But all timer for sure.
That is an all timer.
But Arizona's news commitment. Mabil Mawut. Kevin, I disagree a little bit on maybe what his role could be next season.
We both feel positively
on it, but I think
just to different degrees.
Yeah,
right?
I think that ultimately, he's a player that I think that we're excited about.
Correct.
And like there's a highlight out there, and you guys should go watch it. I think it's on
Read my mind
on Mawut's Twitter account. But they played against the Strive for Greatness team, which of course is LeBron James's AAU team. Bryce James on the team, Braden Burries also on the team. Part of the reason why we got Braden Burries was that connection, presumably. And in that video, when playing against Strive for Greatness, Mabil Mawut blocks Braden Burries driving to the basket from behind on a layup attempt. And it felt wrong. My two beautiful boys going to war with each other, Kevin.
I think that feels right.
High level competitors, but it's just like that's Wildcat on Wildcat crime, brother.
I know that was your first reaction when you said it, and my first reaction was good. It's going to be a whole lot more of that where that comes from in practice, I hope. Because if Mabil Mawut can really hang with Braden Burries, who, I mean, shout out to, I'm sorry I forget the name off the top of my head. Let me pull it up actually right now. But shout out to this guy on Twitter, Mike, cool guy on Twitter, who went to the lengths to do this very extensive Braden Burries thread about how he is going to be a one-and-done guy and why he is going to be a one-and-done guy and how versatile he can be at the college level. If Mabil Mawut can hang with that guy, that is incredibly encouraging for him actually getting to see the court next season as pretty much a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
So I again when I say that I'm not like over the moon about the Mabil Mawut signing, it's not for lack of excitement as to what his skill set could be. It's just the fact that right now he might not be able to contribute for this team, and that's kind of where my head is at of looking for guys that can contribute right now today. But like I said, where I was starting with is if he can hang with Braden Burries regularly, he can play with Arizona because Braden Burries is going to start next year for Arizona.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like there's probably a case, and we'll obviously watch him a lot more and get more details on him after he gets inside the program and hear how he's doing in practice and whatnot, like what his role is expected to be. But that being said, I think he feels like a guy where his on-ball defense is going to be there. It's going to be a matter of whether or not off-ball he's in the right places, he's reading the game the right way. It moves at a different speed, obviously, being at the Big 12 level in particular, which is such a fast game. Or not really fast, but just like
fast physical mix.
Physical, yeah, such a physical mix. And you gotta have a good head on your shoulders. Like you watch Houston play, and every single one of those guys is in the exact right position at all times, right? We saw it with Carter Bryant at times last season, where it's like Carter has every tool in the box, every tool. You know what I mean? Like he has all
too many damn tools.
But sometimes it was a little bit of an adjustment period to get right with the team defense. And, I think that's going to be a big indicator of whether Mawut can play year one, right? Is can he play team defense? Can he be in the right spot at the right time? Can he do what Tommy Lloyd needs him to do? Kevin, you talked about, feeling like you want players that, contribute on next year's roster. And that's kind of where your apprehension on this commitment and the last two commitments comes from is, will these guys help us right away? Well, we're going to look at, next year's presumed lineup. And, what maybe holes need to be filled, what spots we feel comfortable with. And we're going to do that right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Well, Damon, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Circle K. Now, Circle K, it's America's thirst stop. We are here in Circle K studio. You see it on the microphone. You see the snacks behind Damon, and those snacks can be yours. Maybe not those exact snacks, but go to Circle K and you got all the hot jalapeno chips. You got your classic if you're into that. You got your barbecue if you're into that. Circle K has it all. And oh yeah, I didn't even mention the purpose of the Circle K is to get all these beautiful snacks. You got your Wrigley Sour gummies. You got your, what is this? We got the peppermint Starlights.
Yeah.
And you got your dark chocolate almonds, the milk chocolate almonds. Also.
I didn't want to throw that big giant bag of kettle cooked chips at you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Would have been hard to catch with these tiny hands. But Circle K, didn't even mention, we talked about all the food and all the fun stuff you can do there. You can also fill up your damn car because they have some of the best deals in all of gas stationery. of across the world. 25 cents off per gallon when you join the Inner Circle Rewards membership program, which you can do so easily just on your phone. All you got to do is give a phone number, email, and you're good to go. And then after that, you get 3 cents off on every fill up for every day after that. And once you do enough of that, you get to 5 cents off per gallon, which is where Damon has been for pretty much his whole damn life, and where I am now, 5 cents off per gallon. May 6th is the big Circle K giveaway. Customers can win prizes, cash, and more. Visit circlek.com/big-giveaway for more details and join that Inner Circle Rewards membership program by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Participate locations. Visit circlek.com for more details.
One great way to save money going to Circle K. Another great way to save money on one of the biggest purchases you will make out there is with our friends at Empire Today Flooring. If you are in need of some new flooring, Empire Today is the only option to go to. They're going to give you a $350 off discount with our promo code of PHNX, but also they're going to go into your house, show up, give you a free estimate, and with their virtual floor designer, they're going to show you exactly what that new flooring is going to look like in your home before they install it, which is a big deal, Kevin, because we all know, like, if you were to get some new flooring, say it costs, a couple $1,000s, all of a sudden you're looking at it and you're looking at the walls, you're looking at the paintings, and you're like,
it don't go together.
I don't know if I love this giant purchase I just made. Scrap that with Empire Today. They're going to make sure you love your purchase before they install it. And guess what? They're also going to make the process of installing it easy. They're going to bring all of the equipment. They're going to install it themselves. You don't have to worry about finding a private contractor to install. You don't have to worry about lugging all that equipment from a big box store back to your house. It is the most convenient, the most affordable option for new flooring, and it is Empire Today. Make sure you schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners receive a $350 discount when you use promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHNX for full details.
Home is very important, Damon. Home is where the heart is. Home is where your Empire flooring is.
Poetic.
Home is where you have brought your car after filling it up at Circle K.
Yep.
And home for Mabil Mawut is South Sudan.
True.
And if you are one of the probably many basketball fans who don't know much about South Sudan, there is...
what the hell are you doing?
Exactly. First of all, what is wrong with you? Become more worldly. Second of all, I put together a list of notable players that I think you might recognize here at home that are also from South Sudan. We got Khaman Maluach from last year's Duke team. Damon was bringing up how
they seem to be friends.
They do seem to be friends. Mabil seems to be very supportive of all his NBA draft dreams. Luol Deng, obviously, is probably the kingpin of South Sudanese basketball. Is that like a bad term? Can you be a benevolent kingpin?
Yeah,
I'm trying to say he's like the head. He's like the king. He makes all the decisions.
He is though. Like he genuinely, he moved to England when he was, pretty young. But Luol Deng has been pretty much the catalyst behind getting all of this NBA academy and African scouting and stuff up to the level that it needs to be, because there's such a heavy talent bed in Africa, right? And Luol Deng is, like you said, been one of the primary contributors to making that happen.
Yeah, he's been like the torch carrier, the flag bearer, if you will. JT Thor, also one of the sickest names, honestly. Thor, crazy cool last name. Yeah. Manute Bol, Thonmaker, Francisco Elson, and Wenyan Gabriel, also all from South Sudan. So Tommy Lloyd is dipping his toes into South Sudanese water to see what he can find out there, and hopefully Mabil Mawut can fulfill his own dreams and reach that NBA goal after being an Arizona Wildcat. Tom here in the chat says, happy Cinco de Mayo weekend. Shout out to you, Mr. Grandpa, for the Cinco de Mayo weekend shout. I did not even realize, Damon, until he made this comment that it was Cinco de Mayo weekend. Cinco de Mabil weekend.
Didn't work.
Can I interest anyone in that?
We'll go back to the drawing board.
Can we work on something for that? That'd be beautiful. Anyway, we do have something actual, to talk about here in relation to Mabil Mawut, Arizona, and Carter Bryant. We were talking to...
Real quick, did you know, I was looking at some of the other, I typed in Bol because I was just interested. I was like, was Bol not born in America? Like, it seems like he, with Manute Bol playing in the NBA, that you would think that Bol would just be born in America. Yeah. He is born in Sudan, or at the time what was Sudan now. He is a South Sudanese. I don't really know how
citizen person?
Yeah, what the barometer of is there, but or how to call that. But his great grandfather, Manute Bol's grandfather, was named Bol Chol Bol.
Bol Chol Bol.
That's awesome, dude.
That is awesome. Yeah,
name just rips.
You and I were talking about this. How interesting names are when you go from different culture to different culture, how you and I were talking about it in the context of how it can cause confusion. Right? It's specifically the famous case of Ming Yao versus Yao Ming, right? What's the proper way to discuss the basketball player we all know as Yao Ming?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because if you look up Mabil Mawut, right, on the internet, there's literally 4 different ways that he is listed. Now there is the more common correct way is Mabil Mawut, right? But there's Mabil Mawut Khan Mabil, there's Mabil Mawut Khan, there's Mabil, there's you know what I mean? On the back of his jersey and the commitment, it says Mawut.
It's one of those situations where it's a little bit of confusion as to what's the first, last, middle.
Yeah, and
what's proper, but
exactly what's proper.
We think Mabil Mawut is the way to go.
Correct. Yeah,
but we will obviously we're going to be flexible on that one, Kevin. Not setting that one and not writing that one in Sharpie. I do have a bit of breaking news for you right now.
Ooh.
Our guy Justin Spears just tweeted Justin Flo's newest home.
Oh, is that why Erica's on the way to Vegas right now?
It seems as though he will be joining Emmanuel Stephen with the UNLV Rebels next season.
Wow.
So, Arizona loses Justin Flo.
And Erica Day.
And Erica Day in the process, sadly.
Sad moment. Let's all have a moment of silence for the Heem Jones at Arizona.
That was a pour one out.
Pour one out.
You guys could tell.
Yeah, pour one out there. But like I was saying, in summation of our Mabil Mawut conversation, names are fun. Mabil Mawut is fun, and I can't wait to see him play basketball for Arizona because I think he could be a hell of a player for the Wildcats. But
just how good is he going to be in year one? And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Looking at this potential lineup, where are the holes on this roster? What needs to be fixed, and what do you feel comfortable with? So, without further ado, Kevin, why don't we get straight into that convo?
Yeah.
Obviously, Jaden Bradley comes back. That's number one, right? You start with your point guard. Jaden Bradley, most experienced player on this team, in the spot that you would want the most experience, right? So
do you want Unk, where Unk can run the grill at the cookout, and Jaden Bradley can run all the grills.
Is that his nickname for next season?
Unk?
Yeah. Him and Tobe.
We'll see. Maybe if we
Tobe
get the chance,
gives a little bit more Unk energy, I feel like.
Definitely. But if we get the chance to ask JB any questions, I feel like we should ask him, how is it being Unk? Mm-hmm. You are officially Unk. Are you vibing with it?
That'd be
great.
Are
you resentful? What's going on?
I would absolutely love that.
Braden Burries is his main nephew, if you will. We're going to continue with that. At the 2 guard there, the freshman, looks to be a one-and-done player. People love Braden Burries' game. We love Braden Burries' game. Very excited to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Potentially taking on that Caleb Love role. Not saying that he's going to be Caleb Love year one, but
volume scorer,
and who knows what he could actually be. So, moving into that 3 spot, got a bunch of question marks, and this kind of brings us to our next topic of conversation before we continue this lineup preview, is Carter Bryant. Is Carter Bryant for certain not coming back at this point? Or are there still enough minutes to go around between all the developmental players and all your 5 stars and your Jaden Bradleys for Carter Bryant to even think about coming back?
I think the one player that is most his minutes are most volatile in this conversation is Dwayne Aristode. I feel that, you bring back a guy like Anthony Del Orso, you do it because he's going to play rotation minutes for this team. Not necessarily starter minutes, even if he does end up starting. Say Carter, if we're looking at this lineup right now, Kevin, I think me and you both probably would agree that ADO is the starting 3, right? And that Aristode comes off the bench kind of similarly to like a KJ Lewis did last year, and that's kind of that would be my personal,
if I'm gambling on it, I would definitely bet on ADO. I would bet on Tommy Lloyd going with the experience over the potential, and then maybe if Aristode plays his way into that role, maybe we do see it later in the season. But
I feel like if that's what we go with from the jump, and there's no Carter on this team, that's probably what's going to stay for me, at least, because that's what Tommy did all season last season until the Trey Townsend switch happened, but like things had to get really bad for the
Trey Townsend also had to get concussed.
Yes,
as well. That
yes.
also had to happen.
And he was playing like diabolical basketball at the time. So it's like it was crazy to that it took as long as it did, but eventually it happened, right? And then it went back. So I feel like Tommy's a guy he likes his like weird roles like that. I feel like ADO as of right now is the starting 3. But yeah, if Carter Bryant does intend to come back to Arizona after going through the draft process,
please,
he obviously slots into that spot. He's clearly the starting 3 on this roster. And I think that, on top of that, obviously it raises the ceiling of this team significantly, right? But in my opinion, Dwayne Aristode's minutes are the most, it could change. And it could be, it could be 15, it could be 30 a game. And I really wouldn't be shocked, but I think Carter's decision plays a lot into that.
I agree with you. And I think if you're, we've been doing it all year, reading the tea leaves, right? Like with Carter Bryant, seeing what really is out there with the things that he is giving us. I feel like we are going to continue to do this, until, at least I am, until he actually makes his decision, because I can't make up my mind as to what I think is actually going to happen. So I feel like I'm just going to keep doing this roller coaster of he's staying, he's going, he's staying, he's going,
yeah,
he's staying.
I keep doing the same thing.
And I feel like today he is going because there's just, I feel like bringing in so much talent at the wing. I know that the couple of guys they are brought in are both 6'11", kind of taller, lengthier guys that probably figure to play more of a 4, you know what I mean, like a 4 or 5. But there's only so many minutes on a basketball team, and I do feel like, does this mean Carter Bryant returns or does not return? If I had to pick, I feel like it means he doesn't return. But I am encouraged by the fact that they haven't really brought in like a 1-to-1 comparison for Carter Bryant. I know there's not one, but you know what I mean? Like they haven't brought in like a size and skill set comparison for Carter Bryant yet from either the portal or from the high school ranks or the international ranks. So I am encouraged that he could return. But like we were talking about, there's just so many minutes you can play in one game. And is Carter Bryant willing to sacrifice any minutes next season for the likes of a developmental guy when he could just go to the draft, get paid millions,
develop on an NBA
and develop
roster.
develop next to NBA talent. You don't know, we don't know, but I don't know. Today doesn't feel like a good Carter Bryant day.
I feel I do think that maybe Mawut can be slightly a Carter guy, like in the role, because Carter's role offensively last season was very much catch and shoot. And that seems to be Mawut's kind of bread and butter from an offensive standpoint, is his ability to catch and shoot, but also his athleticism and his ability to make like big blocks and, kind of momentum plays on defense, which was also Carter's role from a defensive perspective. So I see the fit there a little bit in terms of like maybe it's a replacement. But I also think that, Mawut being a 17-year-old, Del Orso being a guy that you don't want to play heavy minutes, but, could hypothetically if you need him to. And Dwayne Aristode being so young, and we've seen Tommy not fully put his trust into a lot of these young guys early on in their careers. I think Carter's still safe if he wants his position back. Like, I feel like there's no world where, Carter's like, hey, I'm thinking about coming back, but I don't know if I'll get enough minutes. And Tommy's like,
true,
yeah, I don't know if you'll get enough minutes. I think Tommy's going to be like, we'll find the minutes for you, Carter. But you never really know, and we're going to find how this process all plays out. But kind of moving forward, obviously that 3 spot is where we have circled as kind of the big question mark of this team right now. Koa Pete at the 4, write that one in Sharpie. And then at the 5, you got, pretty much probably the most contentious position battle on the team as far as starting lineup goes, and it's Tobe Awaka versus Mo Krivas.
I don't know, man. Evan Nelson might give Jaden Bradley a run for his money.
Don't disrespect Evan Nelson.
I mean, I'm not.
Future friend of the program, maybe.
I'm
Evan
not,
Nelson.
But I will say that, in terms of which positions are most contentious, I think the point guard is not that. But
center certainly is.
Yeah, center certainly is. Honestly, you could argue that the small forward, just by nature of it not having a lead dog right now,
true, but
is the most contentious.
I'm so locked in on the idea of ADO is going to start.
I agree.
If this current roster is what it is right now, ADO is the starter of this team.
I agree. I do think the center is the most contentious. But I think just because I hadn't thought about it yet, I think you could make an argument for small forward to be the most contentious position battle on the roster. But I digress. As you were saying, you were talking about the lineup and how we're looking at the center position being the most contentious.
Yeah, I just think it's a great position battle. We're obviously going to find out who Tommy, wants in that starting lineup as we go on. And you got two very, very different basketball players. Personally, I hope Tobe Awaka is the starter. I know, Kevin, I think you probably agree with me on that. But ultimately, Tommy's going to play the roles that he wants to play because that's what he does. He likes his little weird, quirky type of vibe. So
I do agree with you if you ask me like yes or no to make a decision. I would agree with you that I think Awaka should be the starter, but I'm not fully confident that a lineup with Krivas, Pete, either ADO or Aristode, Burries, and Bradley wouldn't work. And I think when you look at like the bench unit that you have, I'm almost leaning towards Awaka being a better fit for those guys than Krivas. And we know how much Tommy Lloyd loves Matthias Krivas and his skill set and his potential. So I almost feel like we could be looking at Pete Krivas in the front court, and then Awaka being the first big off the bench to kind of play with the, Dwayne Aristodes, the Evan Nelsons, the Sidi Gueye or Gay, Bryce James, and the Mabil Mawut, right? Like
I will say, like, I agree with you to an extent. I think that the Koa Pete fit maybe makes a little bit more sense for a Krivas.
Yes,
maybe.
I agree.
Just the difference, the polar opposites in terms of like athleticism. You have a guy flying high above the rim. You have a back to the basket, kind of put the ball on the floor type of big. Like those are, I think that those styles contrast well against each other. I think from an overall standpoint, though, there's enough scoring for me in the starting lineup where I kind of want that offensive rebounding menace out there to help provide that extra oomph with the starting lineup. Whereas Krivas, I think, could take a big portion of the bench scoring load off of, a lot of these guys where I'm not really like Anthony Del Orso. If he comes off the bench, I think there will be games here and there where he hits like 4 3-pointers and you're like, awesome, that was huge off the bench, right? There's also the chance that he's a starting guy. He's in the starting 5. I don't think Dwayne Aristotle is going to score a ton in his freshman season. I don't really. I think Evan Nelson's probably going to give you about 7-8 points a game, nothing crazy. We might not even see Mawut and Gay play this season. So, I think that you need that scoring punch off the bench a little bit more. And that's where Krivas could, be like a 15-point per game scorer coming off the bench potentially. And I do like that fit a little bit, but I see what you're saying from a Koa Pete, who does he style up with a little bit better with? I could see that for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I like that argument. I hadn't really thought about where the scoring is coming from on the bench. I was in the beginning of this offseason process because of the Carter Bryant of it all. But I almost feel like I need to reevaluate that when Carter Bryant either makes or does not make a decision. And in terms of whether Awaka should be starting or on the bench, I like the idea of Krivas coming off the bench for the scoring. I really do. I think you could go – I'm mainly doing this just for devil's advocate purposes, but I think you could also argue by the offensive rebounding point that the bench might need that more because they aren't as sure of scorers, so you're going to need to maximize the amount of opportunities you could have from your bench unit because they're not the elite scorers that a Braden Burries or a Koa Pete or a Jaden Bradley might end up being next season for you. So I think it could go either way, and that also plays into our conversation of how this is the most contentious position battle on the team because you can make legitimate good basketball arguments for either guy to either come off the bench or to start. So it really is going to depend on who's developed more in the offseason, whose game is more fit for this roster that Tommy Lloyd has put together day one, and time will tell. But I do think it's going to be an interesting conversation that I'm sure you and I will continue to have before we tip off in the winter.
Maybe we might have that conversation as we move forward here, but it's pretty much the basis of our entire show until Carter Bryant makes his decision. But yeah, I mean, I like the rounding out of this roster. Where do you think the upgrades and the downgrades from last year's team go in? Like, let's talk about that for a second, Kevin. You look at the point guard spot, obviously it's the same, like, except for the backup point guard spot, where I think you have a big upgrade in Evan Nelson over Conrad Martinez personally, because I think that Evan Nelson can realistically stay on the floor at a much, more efficient rate than Conrad could, just because Conrad, if he played heavy minutes, would have gotten targeted defensively so much, right?
Yeah.
So I think you upgrade at that backup point guard spot. You could spell Jaden Bradley a little bit more. Agree or disagree?
No, I definitely agree. I think that's a huge upgrade on this roster. I'm looking at the lineup we have right now in our rundown, and I'm trying to think of the biggest downgrade, to be honest with you.
I think it's the 2 spot. And that's not to say that Braden Burries can't be a really good player. It's not to say that he can't match what Caleb Love did last season potentially. It's just to say that I'm not going into this season expecting Braden Burries to match what Caleb Love did. And Caleb Love, from a leadership standpoint, from an intangible standpoint, brought a ton to the table as well that I'm not necessarily expecting out of Braden Burries. So in my opinion, that's the biggest downgrade. How big of a downgrade it truly is up in the air, and it could, Braden Burries could be so good that it's really not much of a downgrade at all. But as of right now on May 2nd, that's where my head's at.
I think the biggest downgrade, and I'm really trying to think about this before I say it and be for certain, but I almost feel like it's the bench unit as a whole.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
I think the bench unit is by far the biggest downgrade when you look at 1 through 5. Evan Nelson really being the I think only player that you upgraded on your bench unit last year, at least right now that we can for certain say. Because let's say Dwayne Aristode comes in and he's every bit the high value recruit that we thought he could be, and he's awesome on both ends, and he kind of makes us forget about KJ Lewis, right? Like maybe that's the case. But I think last year you had a good mix of well, I guess not mix of guards, but you had a good mix of wings and bigs off your bench that could actually come in and lead the game in scoring, right? Like Arizona their bench outscored, I don't know exactly how many of last year's opponents, but I would venture to say 70+% of last year's opponents, Arizona's bench outscored the other unit's bench. And so I just feel like right now, looking at this bench of, if we're saying ADO starts, Dwayne Aristode, Evan Nelson, Sidi Gueye, Bryce James, and Mabil Mawut, there's no way that you can be confident that bench is going to be incredible next year, because you haven't seen pretty much any of those guys play.
Yeah.
Right? So I
have a lot to base off of.
Yes, and I do feel like that is the biggest downgrade as of right now today. The overall bench unit does not have the same punch and versatility that it did last year, but it could double the production of last year's bench if these players pan out the way that Tommy Lloyd and staff think that they could, right?
I guess hypothetically, I do think that that's probably the case, is that this bench unit is going to be significantly worse than Arizona's bench unit was last year. But that's not to say that the team that doesn't match the team necessarily. Correct. Because Tommy purposefully made that bench the strength of last year's roster, having Veesaar, Bryant, KJ Lewis all come off the bench and play huge minutes for this team when they were pretty clearly better than some of the players that were in the starting lineup, right? So I agree with you in that it certainly, that is the biggest downgrade on paper, but also I don't know how much impact that necessarily has, because the starting lineup, I think, in my opinion, gets a lot better from last season. The difference between Koa Pete and Trey Townsend, that's Charmeleon to Charizard. That is the evolution. They kind of they even got a little bit of a similar look thing going on. Koa Pete is just the final evolution of Trey Townsend, who's great. Actually really good at basketball.
That's really good.
So I you look at that, you look at having your point guard back. We'll see what goes on with the small forward situation. That obviously is so up in the air, but I think you upgrade big time at the power forward spot. That's a fact. And then the center spot is largely the same. I mean, I know me and you both would prefer having Veesaar over Krivas on this team, but I don't envision that drop off necessarily costing this team games or anything like that. I feel like they're close enough in level where Tommy was given Krivas playing time over Veesaar at the beginning of the season, so clearly he was better in practice and whatnot. But yeah, that bench unit is for sure the eye-opening one. And then I guess just kind of last question on this topic here, We talked a lot about a guy like Tyrone Riley from San Francisco. He obviously went back to San Francisco. With knowing how this roster has shaped up, now using the benefit of hindsight, would you still be waiting for Carter Bryant to make his decision? Or would you have taken Tyrone Riley and having that piece in place as like the starting 3 on this roster and kind of settling what this roster looks like right now?
Well, if those are my 2 choices, I would wait for Carter Bryant.
Okay.
Because I don't think that if you add Tyrone Riley to this team, all of a sudden that it's, here we go, strap a rocket to our back, we're going to the moon. Like, I think it adds depth, and I think it adds confidence that the team is solid everywhere if you add a Tyrone Riley. But it's not the same as getting a Carter Bryant back. So if those are the 2 options you're giving me, I think I'm going to wait for Carter Bryant to make a decision. I thought you were going to ask me, knowing what we know now, would you wait for Carter Bryant or would you try to find his replacement now?
Sure, that too.
And I that was why I was like, whew, because I almost think I don't know. Because it all comes down to stuff that we're not privy to. It all comes down to communication between Carter
and Tommy,
Murph, NBA scouts, and
the GM,
lot, right?
Of the team.
Whoever represents Carter, like all these conversations that you and I are not necessarily privy to, ultimately decide the direction that Tommy Lloyd and Arizona go in. And so I don't know what I would do in that case because I don't have all the information. But I'm almost tempted to say you're so close with this roster to either do everything you can to make him make an early decision or go find someone that you know for sure can at least give you 70% of what he could give you. You know what I mean? Because this roster really is close to being one that preseason is going to be in national championship contention conversations. So you don't really want to play around with that, waiting for a guy that might not come back to you anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was kind of looking at some names in the portal earlier. It's definitely similar pickings than it was, kind of a little bit earlier. Per John Rothstein, Luis Molina says that Arizona and Florida are finalizing an agreement at T-Mobile Arena, which is in Vegas, right? And wow, what a schedule for next season. Can't wait. Man, Tommy
my God. It's the opening night of the season.
Tommy is on that.
Opening night
against the reigning national champions. Tommy is just so much like Lute when it comes to scheduling non-conference games. And we just haven't seen this kind of like battle testing going on in college basketball for high-level programs in a long time. You look at guys like Coach K that I think they changed the way in which you schedule. Like Duke's not going to play a single team, worth of crap that isn't in like the Maui Invitational tournament, that isn't in their conference all season long. And then in a year where the ACC sucks, Duke plays nobody all season long, right? Because except for Arizona and non-conference. But it feels like Tommy is just so like he's so locked in on playing the UConns, the Floridas, all these top tier programs. And as an Arizona fan, how can you not just like get fired up about it, right?
Opening night of the 2025-2026 season, there will be a doubleheader, an elite doubleheader between another team from the Big 12. BYU will go face-to-face against Villanova in Las Vegas, Nevada, as we already alluded to. And then the main event will be Arizona and Florida, I believe. I think that has to be the main event between those teams. All 4 teams are ranked in the top 20 of Rothstein's preseason top 45. That is unbelievable. I'm kind of shocked by that news. Damon, I know that we both love this, but my initial reaction I must say, can we just get a squash? Can we just get a couple squashes in the first? I love that the team, this is great for the team. This is great for the roster. This is great for actually winning basketball games. As a fan, I just can we ease in? Can we not go with the high blood pressure values week 1? You know what I'm saying, Tommy? Can we give my heart a break? I just want to watch Koa Pete dunk on a couple mid-major guys before he's got to go up against the defending national champions as a freshman in college. So, well, I'm going to love it. It's going to be electric. I could not be more excited about it. I don't want to come off like I'm not excited about it. But the initial reaction was, oh, my God. We can't get a Central Michigan to start the year.
This is and shout out Noah Wolbrecht. This is the thing that you're not thinking of, the way that you're not thinking about it. And this is kind of weird that we're playing. I feel like me and you are switching roles here, and we really have, all day long with the Mawut stuff is, stop looking at it in a negative sense. You don't want that blood pressure high. You know what I want? I want to win the game and to tell the college basketball world, we are right here.
No, you're right.
And we are going to win
again.
This.
You're right. No, yeah, you are right. Justin Spears gave us great free game on that word because he told me, have you heard the sugar honey iced tea that Steve Smith was talking about T-Mac? And I was like, sugar honey. Oh, okay. But yeah, we're going to win this sugar honey iced tea for sure.
And going back, Mawut, like we're cutting down nets, bro. Mawut hits his second 3-pointer of the game against Florida in night 1 at 17 years old. The announcers talked about it for the 20th time of the basketball game. I'm losing my mind. I mean, I'm already picturing this right now. It's a beautiful sight to behold.
Indeed, Damon. But yeah, like I said, I want to see how cool the roster could be before we get into the super hard stuff. Because that way I'm like, okay, at least I know the freak athletes we got. But I ultimately am happy that Arizona and Tommy Lloyd are going to be one of the most battle-tested teams again next year. And it's only going to show the nation exactly the quality that Tommy Lloyd is and that his team can be. And exactly what Boom here says in the chat. They were so much better prepared for Duke the second time after going through the Big 12. It helps to play good teams in non-conference and have an idea of how to play them in the tournament. And not only how to play them in the tournament, playing them before you get to conference gives you an idea of the sugar honey iced tea you got to fix before you get into the Big 12 conference play, because there is no wiggle room in the Big 12 conference to figure it out, right? Like you don't have the time. You don't have you don't have low-level opponents to figure it out against. You're going up against Houston. You're going against Texas Tech. You're going against Iowa State. You're going against all these different teams, right? So I do agree that in general, starting your non-conference as difficult as possible does only help you ultimately become the best basketball team that you're ever going to become. But it does terrify me that we don't even get one game to start the year against a team that we're just going to squash. But I'm excited. Las Vegas.
Well, they'll play like I'm sure they'll play like some scrimmage of sorts or some like game that doesn't technically count. I remember one time they played Oral Roberts in like that
was fun.
That preseason game before the year starts. So I hopefully they get a little bit tested, but yeah, it's going to be a way early test for this team, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know Florida doesn't have like a ton of.
Oh, they got Xavier Lee.
Yeah, they do, but they also don't have like a ton of players coming back from their national championship roster. So it's going to be a big mystery from a Florida standpoint. Going into that game, how good are they even?
This could be a UConn situation from last year where you're going into it like, oh, 2-time defending national champions. You don't want to play them week 1.
Yeah.
Or not week 1, but you know what I'm saying, opening week of the season. And then all of a sudden, UConn is getting whooped left and right by teams that they usually wouldn't lose to. And you're like, what is wrong? Like, what is up with this new mix of UConn guys? So hopefully Arizona can catch them off guard and can showcase their level and win that game. But that is for another time. Damon, that is all I have for us today, unless you have more to wax poetic on.
No, just, shout out, Arizona baseball this weekend. Go support the boys. They're doing a really cool beer bat, soda bat.
So cool.
Thing on I think on Saturday, tomorrow's game. $7 beer bats, guys. If that doesn't get you hyped up. The beer bat is like a yard long. It has a lid, Kevin, which like most of the time you get a beer bat and there's no lids. That's special, right?
Agreed.
And in $7 beer bat beers, what are we talking about? Like I was like literally like I didn't have plans to go to Tucson. I was like, should I pop down just to go to the
you
beer
should.
bat
I think
game?
you should. I think you should, Damon.
I mean, it was making me think like it would be a great idea, but
I think you should go and get 2 beer bats and then bring one back so I can use it for just recreation.
Yes, for sure. Just in the old apartment. But
I'll just fill it up with water and have it with dinner. You know what I mean?
yeah, just on your table, just absurdly long beer vat. But they play TCU at 6 p.m. tonight. They play TCU at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, and then they play on Sunday at 12 p.m. And they're giving away, it's Star Wars Day on Sunday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Poster giveaway.
Nice.
I mean, Arizona baseball just keeping you locked and loaded.
Keeping you locked and loaded.
With the, the
decades-old franchises.
Why am I blanking on what you call giveaway items?
Givvies?
Yeah, givvies.
Freebies.
Sure.
Freebies?
I think giveaway items is what I was going for. But also, Arizona softball plays Houston today, right after this show, actually at 2 p.m., then 12 p.m. Saturday at Houston, and then 10 a.m. on Sunday at Houston. So that's the final series of the season. Check those games out. Arizona softball, actually, their last game, didn't see this. They lost to San Diego State 1-0. So bit unfortunate. And probably a game that you shouldn't lose, my guess, not knowing much about San Diego State's softball caliber. But yeah, not playing like all the best softball at the time, but it doesn't matter once you get into the tournament. Arizona softball, Arizona baseball, go support them, watch softball on TV, go to the baseball games in person. Kevin, we will be back on a Monday on the AZ Wildcats podcast at noon. Make sure you guys are here. Turn those notifications on after you subscribe to the channel. The road to 40K continues, Kevin. We are so close. I'm looking here. We are at 39,935 subscribers,
Sheesh.
Kevin. We are 65 subscribers away from 40K.
Good math.
Be one of those 65. It is an elite 65, an elite group of absolute killers, we'll call them. But yeah, everybody, thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. He is Kevin Thomas at Kevo Posts. I am Damon Fairall at Damon Dog. And you can follow our show at PHNX_Wildcats, PHNX_Sports as well. Give that account a follow. We'll be back on a Monday edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast. Until then, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats. Before we go out, I wanted to mention U of A night at the Angels Stadium. They had a game the other night. It was quite beautiful. That was cool. Brent Brennan was there. Tommy Lloyd was there. Khalil Tate was there. Reggie Geary was there. DRF was there. We're worldwide, y'all.
We all silly like the mayor.